Following on from last week in the theme of learning, this week we're turning our attention to the issue of intelligence, asking the question, what is intelligence and does it matter? I've got joining me this week Professor Gordon Stobart, another colleague of mine here at the Institute of Education, and he's just recently published a book called The Expert Learner. So Gordon, start us off and tell me, is there such a thing as intelligence?
If you're talking about a thing, as if it's an entity or something you can find somewhere in your head, I'd probably say no. But I also realise that we would say this is intelligent behaviour, so there's something behind it. But I'm very reluctant to say there's something hardwired into us that we call intelligence. And one of our problems with this is, do you define intelligence? Because what happens is, as soon as you start to look for definitions, you'll find there's all sorts out there. So different people have very different views of what intelligence is, and that doesn't help much either. So you would start with going back historically, the idea that there's just a common, a general intelligence, where others come along and say, no, there aren't. There are 7 forms of intelligence. And then Howard Gardner comes and says there's 8.5 forms of multiple intelligence. And then I think the top score was Guilford, who found 120 different forms of intelligence. So when somebody said, it was back in the 1930s, intelligence is what intelligence tests measure, I always thought that's a bit superficial. But actually it's quite deep, because what they're saying is your view of intelligence shapes how you develop intelligence tests. And so if you like, you prove what you want through asking the questions you want. So probably why intelligence has focused so much on things like verbal reasoning, spatial reasoning, number reasoning, that kind of thing, because that's what that was the predominant view of what intelligence produces. Then others come along and say practical intelligence, creative intelligence, kinesthetic intelligence, and all. So we need to probably try and pin down what we mean by that when we're talking about it.
So in education, quite often there's a lot of words that people use, like ability, or somebody's a quick learner, or a slow learner. I mean, why are those sorts of terms being used?
I have strong views on this, so I better not get overexcited at this point. I subtitled the book Challenging the Myth of Ability. Because I think what's happened is we don't use IQ or intelligence very much in our language in schools, but we do use ability, and I think it's actually a cover for intelligence. And IQ scores and things sort of got a bad press, with good reason. But ability seems to be a neutral term. And you go into schools and you hear low ability, high ability, no ability, which certainly worries me, because I think the way it's being used is not so much that they haven't developed ability, but they haven't got any, they've got a lot of, or not much of, underlying ability that causes learning. And my argument would be actually ability, we develop ability. So it's a measure of learning, not the cause of learning. But that gets confused in schools when you hear people talking.
So would you say then that we're all born with the same ability that we then develop as we go through schooling? No, I wouldn't say that was the radical behaviour is a bit about blank slates and it's just what the environment does. I mean, my point would be it's an interaction. We're born with certain capacities, but how these develop really comes down very much to the environment, stimulation, and what else. I'd use the parallel of language. We all have a capacity for language, but the language we speak, whether we speak at all. Think of
wolf children, children brought up with outside society, cannot speak. So there's a capacity that has to be developed, there has to be experiences that bring it along. So I'd say there may be ranges of capacity, but the key thing is the way it interacts with the environment. So if you have a really deprived environment, it's going to be very difficult to come out with high ability, because you've not had the stimulation, you've not had the structures and the like.
So, when I think back to when I was a teacher, and I remember my classes and the groups of students that I worked with, and I would know with a particular class that some students would grasp an idea or grasp the content of the lesson much quicker than others. And it's quite common in those sorts of environments to refer to those students as being high ability or quicker learners or some other kind of euphemism. And so are you suggesting then that that's because they've actually learned to be better learners along the way by the time they come into my classroom?
I think that will account for a large amount of it. That's why we have such pronounced differences often between kids who come from very disadvantaged backgrounds and kids who come from privileged backgrounds. You've only to look at language and the range of vocabulary that a privileged child has heard and can use, and the way it can become sexual. And if you come from a very deprived, there's some good studies to show this, come from a very deprived background, you'll have a very limited vocabulary. That makes it harder to work with new concepts and the like. So I would put quite a lot of this down to the kind of stimulation, the kind of environment that kids have had. And the danger is we stick a label and say low ability, and from then onwards we treat them as limited capacities for doing things, so we give them easier work and everything else. And they will not catch up as a result. So there's language. The same is true of reading. If you get exposure to books, exposure to stories and things like that, again, privileged kids will have had a lot more of this. And as a result, vocabulary, the ability to use reading to learn rather than to just struggle to learn to read, begins to make a difference. The way I put this and put it in the book is the idea that there are these small multipliers where we have a small advantage and that then multiplies and makes a bigger advantage. I use sport examples, that you're slightly better at kicking a football and you're probably slightly older and slightly bigger, so people say, you've got talent there. Put them in the training group, put them in the team so they get practice, they get better, they go on to more competitive games, you get better coaching, and very soon people are saying he's a natural, just a natural. I use the story of David Beckham. He was kicking the ball around when he was 3 years old and his dad was coaching him and everything, and people just kept saying, this is amazing, this little kid can boot the ball so hard and can bend 3 kicks, but he was practicing those nearly every day when he was 6 years old. So it's that how kids with small advantages, it accrues and accrues and accrues, and I think that's often family background that does just that. And other kids can't make the same progress because they don't get the same stimulation.
So does that mean that some people are then born with an affinity to Beckham was born with an affinity to be a great footballer?
No, I don't think he was. And you read Alex Ferguson says, what made him different was I call it deliberate practice that he put himself through, and he just pushed himself. And certainly I do a lot of work with sport, and I'd say that's a characteristic. There's a kind of, if there is a characteristic you're born with, it's to do with, I think, more to do with resilience and being able to push yourself and keep going, rather than you're actually born with a particular hardwired skill. I often ask, what does it mean to be a born tennis player? Do you come out of the womb waving your arms in a certain way, or what? I think you become a tennis player. And I'd say the same was true for chess. It always gets tricky with teachers when you start. They'd agree with that. If I say to them, he's a born camel racer, or a born used car salesman, we all go, But if I say he's a born artist or a born musician, we suddenly think, oh yeah, there's something in it. So I would want to question how much is hardwired at birth. I don't think very much is in terms of specific skills like that. I think it's to do with opportunities we get, and that kind of resilience and dedication and practice is what takes us on, the kind of social multiplier.